amusant de comparer parce que là, on a par hasard sur le parking une série 3 coupée d'il y a 2 générations d'avant, c'est-à-dire celle des années 2000. Non mais c'est amusant parce que j'étais en train de comparer votre BMW Série 3 coupée, vous me demandiez ce que c'était, et vous disiez finalement, moi je préfère la mienne, votre voiture, son style. Pourquoi?
Pourquoi? Parce que I think that this car looks like someone who is pressing his face together.
Yeah.
If you look at the eyes...
Come on, show me, yeah. If you look at the eyes, yes.
If you look at the eyes, it's like someone who is not very happy. It's like they're... No?
You're right,
it's like,
you're right.
It's like a face that is... It's like a... And my personal theory is that... BMW foresees that most of their money in the next 10 to 20 years will come from Asia.
Yeah.
And I think that this car is an adaptation to Asian taste.
It's very clever. It's exactly what I think. If they are over-designed,
they're over-designed to look a little bit more like high-end either Lexus or other high-end Honda, Toyota models. They're definitely giving them an Asian look, which they think will probably also work in the high-end markets of Russia and the Middle East. I think the mentality is one. If you have money, you want to show it.
Yeah.
Whereas in Europe and the US, it's already the market for showing money is saturated. Like if you go to California now, which is very cutting edge. Yeah, in taste. I lived in Los Angeles for a while. For example, the idea is that your understatement is the key. I mean, you look at the billionaires from companies like Google nowadays, they look like you need to give them money. They look like homeless people. And
you're right.
They have private private Boeings. And so yes,
and this is for new rich people in Asia.
Nouveau riche, predominantly Asian, and then I would say in second line Middle Eastern and Russian clients. Potentially Brazilian clients, but it definitely has an Asian look, and I think that what BMW is doing is risking alienating European buyers versus vis-a-vis Asian buyers, because that's just, the market is so much higher.
I totally agree.
The average German is now driving his car for 8 to 9 years. So you have a much lower...
I think for the moment it will work, but in 10 years for European
it might backfire. It might backfire.
Why do you like your BMW? I mean, this one. What do you think it's more?
Well, it has much cleaner lines.
We are going to see it.
If you see it from the front, it has much cleaner lines. Like this car, for me, is made for the Russian market.
Yes,
the Russian,
definitely.
Not Asian, Russian.
Yeah.
The Russians believe that the bigger the car, the stronger the image, and also because buyers in the Russian mentality are not so much men as women. Yeah. Women make the choice, because usually it's the men who have the money and the women who have no money. So it's the women who are very status conscious, because they actually come. It's usually
it's like buying Gucci.
Yes, a fairly physically unattractive but very rich man with a beautiful girl that he would not be able to get without.
Your vision is very
without his. Yeah. So the girls want to show that they've arrived to their girlfriends.
And so they. In this one, you think we've got more. As you said,
du musst etwas weggehen. Du musst weggehen, weil filmt das. Much cleaner lines. If you compare, I mean, I don't know if you can see both at the same time.
I was doing before.
It's a much cleaner line. I think that the company that is still doing it to a certain extent is, if you look at the new Volkswagen Golf 7, they are still trying to stick with a very classic line. And I think that if I had to bet on one of the two companies, I think Volkswagen has the better strategy. I think that BMW is taking a risk of alienating buyers in the more downscale markets. I think one thing is very interesting. If I live in Marbella, and I can tell you one thing that's very interesting. For example, the Spanish and the non-Spanish have a completely different relationship to their cars.
Yeah.
For example, Spaniards, they don't care about when their cars are scratched.
Yeah.
So they expect you not to care either. So they will open their doors, etc., without
like
taking.
In Paris. It's like
Paris or Italy.
That's the same.
Same thing, or Italy. Whereas Germans and Russians,
They can kill you.
They will kill you if you touch their car. So, for example, you know valet parking in the US? This would never work in Germany because no one would give their car key to someone else. And and things like this. These are small observations. Why don't you have valet parking in Germany? Because no one would. I don't give my key to some Turkish guy who's working here. The other thing is, for example, I give you one last thing, observation. Living in Spain. If you have a parking lot like this, ich komme gleich, in einer Minute. You have a parking lot like this, and you would have, let's say, 3 cars parked here, and everything else is free. If you have a German coming here, he would try to park away from the other 3 cars because he's safer of scratches. The Spaniards, they like to stay together. Do you know how they like to eat lunch together and always big families, big tables? It's the same with parking. Spaniards, I go into a garage, and there are like 3 cars. The next car parks right next to the 4th car, and the next one next to them. They seek to park next to one another. It's very interesting. Because they like one another. Whereas, for example, Austrians and Germans don't particularly like one another. They avoid one another when they go abroad. You know, they hear someone else. Someone will say, "Oh, at the other table, they're also German." They will make a point of not talking to them. Whereas Americans, for example, are always looking for one another, like Spaniards. And they do the same with their cars.
That's very good. Thank you very much. I love what you said because you sum up, it's stronger than...